Hey everybody YouTube, this is Curry Mac, and today I'm going to show you how to make homemade Footlong Coney dogs. This is going to be a very long video because I'm going to show you how to make homemade Wieners, homemade hot dog buns, and homemade chili. But before we get started, here are the things that you're going to need. A sausage stuffer with a 21mm stuffing tube, some 25mm casing, some cotton baker's twine, a 16-quart stock pot with lid, a vacuum sealer with bags, a food processor, and a 12-inch ruler. We'll start by making the seasoning for the meat, which calls for 2 teaspoons of salt. Half a cup of soy protein powder. Half a teaspoon of curing salt. 1 teaspoon of white pepper. Half a teaspoon of mace. 1 teaspoon of dried coriander. 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. 1 teaspoon of onion powder. 1 teaspoon of marjoram. 1 teaspoon of celery seeds. 1½ teaspoons of dried mustard. 2½ teaspoons of smoked paprika. And 2 tablespoons of non-fat powdered milk. And then we're going to mix it up until it's well blended together. And then we're going to add 2 pounds of 80/20 ground beef into the bowl. And next, using our hands, we want to break the meat up. And then we're going to pour the seasoning mix that we did earlier into the meat. And then we're going to mix that up. What we're making is a farce. And then we're going to add 4 tablespoons of liquid smoke. And then we're going to mix that up. And then we're going to add 1 pound of ground beef at a time in the food processor. And then we're going to add the ice cold water. This is 2 cups of ice cold water. I'm adding it to 1 pound each. And after that, we're going to continue to mix it. And then we'll put the first half in a medium-sized bowl. And then we'll take the rest of the meat and put it in a food processor. And then we'll add the remaining cup of water. And then we're going to continue to process that until it's finished. And then we'll put the remainder back in the bowl. And this is how your farce should look like. It should look like a meat paste. And next, we're going to use some cellulose casings. And then we're going to attach the 21mm stuffing tube to the sausage stuffer. And then we're going to slide the 25mm casing over the tube. And we're going to put the farce inside. And it comes out pretty easily. And that guy's taking and stretch it out sometimes to make it flow smoother. Next, we're going to take some baker's twine and tie the ends off. I usually like to double tie it. Next, we're going to use a ruler and measure it to see how long we want the links to be. In this case, it's going to be 12 inches. So I want to mark it, and I want to tie it right there in that spot. After we're done, we're going to put this in a vacuum sealer bag. Next, we're going to take the vacuum sealer and seal one side of the bag off. And then we're going to put the wieners inside the bag. And after that side's done, we're going to take it and turn it around. And we're going to actually vacuum seal the other side. And this is how yours should look like. Now we're ready to put this in the pot. And this is a 16-quart stock pot. And then we're going to fill it up completely with water. And then we're going to cover it up and slow cook it for 2 to 3 hours on medium-low heat. After that's done, your wieners should look like this. Right now, I'll put this in an ice bath for it to cool off. After it's cooled off, we're going to take it out of the casing. And your wieners should look like this. Now we're going to put these in a Ziploc bag and save them for later. Now we'll work on the hot dog buns, which is 1 cup of warm water. I'm checking to make sure it's warm enough for the yeast. It should be 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, we're going to take that and put it inside the big bowl. And then we're going to add 1 packet of active dry yeast. And to that, we're going to add half a cup of flour. And after that, we'll take a whisk and whisk it until it's completely blended. And then we're going to add a stick of melted butter. And then we're going to add a half a cup of warm milk. After that, we're going to add 1 egg. And of course, we're going to mix it around until it's well blended together. And next, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt, and next we're going to add 3 cups of flour. And of course, we're going to stir it up to us or incorporate it together. And it should look something like this. And next, we're going to turn the dough over to a lightly floured surface. And we're going to be kneading this for about 2 to 3 minutes until it looks something like this. And next, we're going to take some light olive oil and put it in a bowl. And then we're going to take the dough and roll it around, and then we're going to flip it over, making sure it's completely covered. And then we're going to cover it up and put it in one space until it doubles in size for about 2 hours. And after that, we'll take it out of the bowl and re-knead it again for another 3 minutes. And then we're going to take a rolling pin and roll it out. Why not measuring dough with a wiener? You can actually use a ruler, but I decided to use the wiener. That's about right. Then we'll use a pastry cutter and cut it about that length. And I will be using these scraps for later. And now I'm cutting it towards about the size of a rectangle. And then I'm going to cut these into even strips. And I'll take that scrap pile and make some more buns out of it. And that's what we're going to take it and roll it and put all these on a baking sheet. And you should get about 8 rolls of these. 8 hot dog buns. Now we're going to cover it up and we're going to put it in one place for about an hour. And then we're going to work on the chili during that time. And the ground beef I'm using is a 96% lean, 4% fat ground beef. This is 1 pound. And then we'll use 2 cups of filtered water. And use the potato masher, we're going to mash it until there's no more chunks. And it should look like this, like a meat paste. Now we're at the seasonings, which is going to be 2.5 tablespoons of chili powder, 2 tablespoons of cumin, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of celery seeds, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of mustard powder, 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of white pepper, 1 teaspoon of paprika. And then we're going to stir it all together. After that, we're going to add 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, 1.5 cups of beef broth, 1 6-ounce can of tomato paste, and then we're going to mix it together. And after this mix, we're going to put it on medium-high heat. And while the chili heats up, it's very important to use a splash guard, because it will plop if you don't do that. And you can tell it's starting to thin a little bit because it's heating up. And this is going to take about 45 minutes. And you see it's bubbling up now, so it's really hot. And it's really splashing. So I quickly covered it back up. After it's done, it should look like this. And to me, this should be a little bit thinner. If you like it like that, that'd be fine, but I like mine a little bit thinner. I will use 1/2 cup of beef broth at a time. I wind up using 2 of these, totaling 1 cup. Now, this is my preferred consistency for chili dogs. And I will go back to the buns. And now for the egg wash. We're going to use 1 egg and 1 tablespoon of milk. We're going to mix it up until it's well blended together. And we'll brush generous amounts of egg wash on the buns. Bake these at 375 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes. And it should be nice and golden brown. Now we're going to split the buns. We're not going to go all the way through, just enough. And then we're going to open it up, and that's how it should be like. Just like this. And now on to the fun part, building the hot dog. Usually I put mustard on the bottom. This is how I prefer to do it. And next we want to have the wieners. And next we're going to add the chili. And then the cheese. As you can see, the other one has something up against it because while I was working on it, it started to lean. On one of them, I decided to put onions on it, and on the other one, I decided to put jalapenos on it. And then we're going to gently put them on a plate lined with foil. This is totally optional. 1 to 2 cups of filtered water, and put your plate inside the pan and cover it up for about 10 to 15 minutes on medium heat until it looks like this. And then gently pull it out of that plate and onto another one. If you do it right, it shouldn't be soggy at all. And this is how it should look like. This is pretty delicious. It took a while, but it was well worth it. So if you like footlong hot dogs and you can't get them in stores, you can make your own. The recipe for the wieners, hot dog buns, and chili will all be in the bottom description. So give it a try.